this is about 5 years ago. We were at one of the largest, I'll just say, technology providers, one of their shops. We had about 80 people in an auditorium style meeting, right? Went through a big data strategy. So VPs, SVPs, people on the phone globally. We walked through this whole strategy using data of what the market looked like, built everything out. And halfway through my presentation, the head of sales stood up and he's like, heard enough, we'll buy it. We're walking out the door, he stopped us and he goes, so what's y'all's next trick, right? Like we're magicians, you know? And Dad looks at me and goes, we're off to save community banking. And half the room laughed. And he's like, oh yeah, sure, right? And Dad did one of those double takes, you know, of like, hey man, you know, might fool you. And I think as far as we've come, that's why when you look at community banking for us, we're all kind of the same people and are rarely bet on. And here we are today. I'd say we're doing okay.
There's so many people that counted out community banks. Had people put their arm around me and say, Dave, at some point you got to let that go. And we're the math guys. And I could see there's a day coming and with the number we felt like it was. But prior to that, I think a lot of people wrote off community banks way too fast. But we did see there's technology changes, there's needs that aren't being met. There's education levels on some of these things. How do we move a board to change what we do? I think widely, a lot of people would say, hey, a fintech can't really make it on interchange. Well, a bank can't really make it without loans. And now we've reached a moment where banks can't really excel without embracing new technologies. I look at BaaS banking as a really cool way to supplement income. We've got opportunities in front of us, whether it's CDFIs, whether it's BaaS banks, there's just 100 different ways. So we started Bankers Helping Bankers. What was really cool, we were hanging out one night and we got to talking about the Roundup, and when we started that, each year it's just progressing and more. We got the largest number of BaaS banks ever assembled in the room right here. And it's incredible what's going on. So it's like, how do we SaaS this model so we can, the good news is we can save them, but the bad news is we're running out of time. So when we can get to a point where we can accelerate, and we call it SaaSing the Roundup. And if, for any of y'all that were here, you'll remember our little slogan early on was, it's like a bunch of bankers helping bankers. Well, we're not the smartest guys in the world, so it took us a year or two to go that out. That's kind of a thing. We got to do that. So that's basically when we started Bankers Helping Bankers 1 year ago at this conference. Nobody had ever heard of it. And it is the fastest brand I've ever watched blow up in my whole career. I never even heard of anything like this. Nationwide overnight. The bankers are ready to fight back. And they needed somebody to step up and say, we'll help you. And we didn't step up, but our sponsors did.
Well, a piece of advice I gave to my younger son, we'll see if he remembers it, is you don't go through life alone. And I think that's particularly true in business and even more so with community banks. I mean, everything we do, we look to our peers, we look to others who've been through it and say, how'd you get there? What should I be thinking about? And that's not different when it comes to something as new as banking as a service, or what I like to call channel partnerships. We certainly do it more broadly with banking associations, either at our state or national level or regional level. And we definitely needed something like that for an emerging trend in our industry, which is BaaS or channel partnerships. To me, the BaaS Association is a critical component of getting more and more banks thinking about and then taking that first step. And then after that first step, knowing what's the path to get there.
On a whim, we reached out to FedFis. We got a call back from Bobby. Bobby is that day. He called us. He talked to us for about an hour. Within that hour, he made 2 connections with us.
Bobby introduced us to Dave, and then Dave has just been family to us ever since. He invited us down here as his guest. He reaches out to us at least once a week. He always keeps us updated. He's answered our phone call every single time we've called. You can't say that much about anyone else, but we have so much love for Dave, and he's why we're here.
We had the privilege to do the FinTech Cowboys podcast with him and Tanner about maybe 2 to 3 months ago. And, I say nothing short of our lives have changed since then.
The dirty secret of the FinTech revolution is really the old cliche. the emperor has no clothes. These companies have nothing without us. And if a community bank in Kansas City, we were essentially a failing institution in 2008, 2009. Our back was against the wall. We said, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And we found our way into payments and building compliance systems and partnerships. And we realized that actually, in spite of all of the hot air, they could do nothing without us. The reality is that banks have always won, and banks will win. Banks win. Banks win. Banks win. So be a bank. Own being a bank. We have a trusted relationship. We have valuable tools that we can use. We create credit. We have the same access to the financial system, to the global financial system that any institution in the world has, any banking institution in the world has. We ought to take pride in it. We ought to use it, and we ought to be ruthless in our opportunism. Let's find those people that need us. Let's let them do their thing, because at the end of the day, we are going to win. That's the whole game. We're going to win. And instead of being defeatist, the fact is, it's totally in our hands, because technology has gotten cheaper. It's more ubiquitous. It's more available to us. We have more opportunities. We can do it. It is possible because banks are in the driver's seat.
I would strongly advise those who are interested in learning, interested in BaaS banking, interested in direct banking, or just in the way the fintech world interacts. This 100% has to be something you put on your calendar every year.